extremely excited about. So we have Whitfield Thomas. Just so you guys know a little bit about Whitfield, before we turn the mic over to him, Whitfield has been here for only 2.5 years. He's only been here for 2.5 years. He is in Austin, Texas. He's married with 2 children, married to his wife, Annie. He's got 2 children, one that's 1 year old, one that's 4, Shepherd and Sebastian. Okay. And I asked from one of the agency owners that works with him, Eric Cook, on what it's like to work with Whitfield. And this is exactly what he said yesterday. So he said, Whitfield is the ultimate student of the game. He's one of the easiest people to work with because he makes it easy because he runs his business like a business. Here's a quick story. So before Whitfield started, he told him that he needs to have a sales talk memorized. Whitfield goes the extra mile on everything. He not only had it word for word memorized, but he was able to handwrite it out, the entire sales talk, word for word, before he even got started here. Next level. He follows through on his commitments. He doesn't just do his commitments, but he goes the extra mile and just gets things done. Highly motivated, great energy. He's actually the older brother of Colin Thomas as well, who many of us know Colin. And you'll be seeing these gentlemen at the mid-year meeting here next week. So check out the stat line. So in less than 2.5 years, he's already written over 55 Eagles, ladies and gentlemen. That's averaging an Eagle every other week. That's not bad. Okay, he's averaging an Eagle every other week. His best month. This is not quarter. His best month is $99,000 of premium in a month. His best week so far is $39,000. That's not bad. He was in the Chairman's Club last year. He's a perennial, top 10 agent nationwide. I think he's like ranked number 7 right now nationwide, and he's an absolute stud. So we're going to hear from Whitfield today. He's going to share his story, just a little bit about his background, get to kind of know him, why he came here to Family Heritage, a little bit about what's helped him have just an absolute monstrous start to his career so far. And make sure you guys get some good notes out from this call. And with that, I'll pass it over to you, Mr. Thomas.
All right. Thank you, Kyle. Yeah, glowing introduction, so I better deliver. Yeah, I love being here at Family Heritage. I came over here from marketing. I worked with a technology company. We built operating systems for national defense. It was fun. I had a great base salary, but I had my eye on a different position in the company, and it kind of became apparent to me that was not exactly going to be available. I didn't learn those of you who spent some time in the corporate world, I didn't learn the old truth or adage that you don't get to advance until you find your replacement. So my VP marketing, the slot that I was looking kind of to grow into, I think he liked me exactly where I was, because I would even tell him explicitly, my job is to make you look good. So let me just do all the things. Let me make you look great. Then kind of, teach me how to come into this role. But I made him look too good, and he was too happy with me where I was, maybe, I don't know. But I talked to Colin, and, I just kind of asked him, hey, these are my goals. Are those goals achievable, at Family Heritage? And he said 100%. So I thought, well, shoot. When I gave my 2-week notice to my company, within 24 hours, they had offered me a raise of 40%. So I think, the way I say it now is that had the opposite effect, right? Instead of me going, oh boy, 40% raise, I need to stick around, I thought, man, I've been underpaid by 40% for years. And, that's the biggest thing I learned coming into Family Heritage, is that if you're worth more, then you'll find out here pretty quick. And I found out pretty quickly that I was worth a lot more than my base salary, even after the 40% raise, because it's my business and I get paid what I'm worth. So that part of this business is massive. I now earn my base plus bonus before my new bonuses and before residual income. And I had a great base salary. So learning that was eye-opening for me. But that's why I came here. I came here primarily because as my children, I made that change right around the birth of my first son, because I started thinking, what do I want out of my career and what do I need in terms of income for the vision I have for me and my boys. And I had a big vision. I still do. And that's really why I'm here, is because of my kids and my family. So it's all about time. I know I only have so much time with these kids under my roof before they're gone. I'm going to drop them off at college one day, probably. And we'll see if college is the way we go, but probably going to drop them off at college one day and just be a bucket of tears on the way home. And I want to know that day that I spent all of the time I could with my kids and that I provided for them everything they could possibly need, or at least I did my best before I go sending them off into the world. So that's a time, it's a clock, right? That's the time I have with my kids today. And what's that going to look like? It could look like me, slaving away for some company and working the hours of 9 to 5 and reporting to a boss and trying to take advantage of my days off and scheduling my vacations that I pay for myself on the PTO days I've accrued up to that point. No thanks, right? It's just not what I want. I have a bigger vision for how I want to spend time with my family, so that's why I'm here. When I first started and things got tough, I actually carried my, now he's 4, but I carried my 1-year-old's pacifier in my pocket. So if I had some call reluctancy and I'm walking up to a business and I'm just like, oh man, it's a tough day, I just put my hand in my pocket and squeeze my kid's passy and just be like, you know what? It's not my time. I'm here for Shepherd. I'm not here for me. I'm here for the people I'm about to talk to. I'm not here for me. So between the hours of roughly 7 a.m. and 6 p.m., what am I doing? Right? It's not my time anyway. So might as well make it productive. I think that the big thing I've learned being here is the more you get away from what you want. Now, it's a little tricky because you have goals that you're out there trying to hit. But to hit the goals you want to hit, you have to just think less and less and less and less of yourself. If you do, then, ironically, I suppose, you end up getting what you want. There's a famous quote. What is it? Kyle would know this, whether it's Mort Utley or somebody who said, you help enough people get what they want and you end up getting what you want. All right. Was that Zig Ziglar or who was that? Anyway,
Uh,
somebody. It's a great quote, but you help enough people get what they want and you get what you want and more. And so that attitude, I think, is a big component of how I have learned to be successful here. You hear all the time, treat your business like a business, run your business like a business. I do that for sure. If I had to distill success at Family Heritage down to 2 things, yes, obviously it's effort and attitude, and I have high effort and I have a great attitude when I'm out there. But I think that the way I like to think about it is it really comes down to who you think you are and what you think you have or what it is you think you're doing, right? So it's when you show up at a business and you've never been there before, if you think you're a door-to-door salesperson who's struggling a little bit and having a hard day, and you think you have some insurance in your back pocket, well, good luck. It's going to be a tough day for you. I never think that. When I show up at a business or when I show up someplace, I think I'm a servant and I think I'm fun and I think I'm not here to bug anybody. I think I'm an angel on a doorstep. I think I'm the person that may keep them in their home here in 6 years or whatever the case may be there. And I think that what I have is incredible because I've seen everything else. I've watched this product work. So if you have an inner dialogue or self-talk that needs some work, start there. That's the core, I think, of what we do. I believe Kyle would agree. When you enter a place of business or when you talk to somebody you're meeting for pretty much the first time, they're going to read you before they read anything else. Are you kind? Are you in a good mood today? Are you the kind of person that they just want an encounter with, kind of regardless what you may or may not have for them? What are you giving them, emotionally, relationally, when you show up. I sit down a lot and I set up a lot of appointments and a lot of enrollments. I think generally because when I show up, people kind of get the impression, yeah, I could talk to this guy. I don't know exactly what he has, but seems to really believe in it, seems friendly enough. So that is, who do you think you are? And then what do you think you have is, I know what I have on my iPad. You talk to somebody like Jeremiah, who, to this day obviously has the record at the company for the most production in a single year. I heard him on a call once say, I don't think there's anybody in the company, president included, that believes in our product as much as I do. And I believe him. I genuinely believe Jeremiah Tatum believes in our product more than Ken Matson. And that's why Jeremiah has the all-time record of 1 million, is because he knows that, and he shows up with that belief, that conviction that what he has is an incredible thing. If you don't have that yet because you're new and you haven't seen a bunch of claims, and maybe it's a little tricky to read through. It's a good thing to do though, but reading through IRAs doesn't get you there. Then just go pull up all the competitors. Every year I buy my competitors and cancel them, and they send me all the documents, so I know what my competitors are doing. So every year I call Aflac and Colonial and NTA, and I buy their accident and their cancer, and then I get all the paperwork in the mail and I cancel it because it's not that good. And I have the best thing, which is Family Heritage. But now I know. Now I know that if I ever got cancer and I had a Colonial plan, they're going to pay me $275 a day for the first 60 days or 30 days of my plan. And then on day 31 or 61, they'll double it up to closer to $500 or $600. Why would they do that? Because the most common stay is 30 days, and it's half the rate. Family Heritage pays you $800 a day, day one, and every day after. If you don't know that, then you don't really know how to speak to somebody who's holding a Colonial or an Aflac policy.
That's cool.
So
Actually, that.
know
That's
what
awesome.
you have, right? Know what's in your back pocket and believe in it. I know another couple of questions Kyle wanted me to go over was like, what's been part of my success here? And I think that's a really big part of it, but also, where am I headed or what's the future look like? It all comes down again to my why and why it is that I'm here with Family Heritage and what motivates me every day to get out and go to work. And that's my kids and time with my kids. So where am I headed with Family Heritage? The income is already amazing because when you're able to write, 500,000-600,000 a year, and if you get up to a market director level, you're talking about a 60 and 5% contract, which is amazing. So you're on the math on that at like 600. That's a good year. I think I'm worth more, and what I really want ultimately for my family and when my boys are older is just the time. That's all I want. I want to be able to take a month off if I want to and spend that time with my kids over the summer. If I want to take an entire summer off and take an RV and travel the country, that's what I want to do. So that looks like owning a business. So I'm starting now, just kind of starting to hire agents and start growing a business, doing that with my brother. But it's crazy, that the sky is the limit here. I don't know the details currently of what Justin Ellingson would earn if he just walked away. I don't have to be a Justin Ellingson. I don't really want to be. But, a 1099 over 1 million and a business that goes out and grows, whether I'm there or not, I love that. Right. So that's what's in my future. And I know what it takes to get there. And I'm going to make those, changes, or I'm going to take those steps. So if you're at a level of production where you're writing 100 or 150 or 200 or 250 or 300, and you want to be at 4 or 5 or 6, or you want to grow a business, well, I always say to people, it's simple math, right? Look at your stats. The stats are your lifeline. Find out what you need to change. Maybe your close rate needs to go from like 27% to 38%, or from 34% to 42%. Maybe your number of calls needs to go from, like 19 up to maybe 26, depending on your goals. But it's all there in your stats. So just pick a target, run backwards, look at the stats, and find out what you need to do to get there, and ask yourself if you're willing to do it. I think one difference between me and some other folks is if I do that math and I know that this is what I want, then I will absolutely just go out and get the 27 calls or the 6 demos a day, or I'll increase the close rate from 30% to 45. So that's, That's the job. But again, all of that, at least in my experience, comes back to who do you think you are and what do you think you have? Because if you have a true service mindset when you show up, you can balance both of those. I have high production goals, but when I show up and sit down with somebody, I tell them 6 ways of Sunday that this is their benefit if they like this, and I'll show them how it works, but that I have no right to tell them what to do with their money. I had a client the other day. She was in her 50s. She got a cancer policy. It was like $178 a month, and she's admin. Um, she probably makes 50,000 a year. And I told her, I said, as we look at this, I said, I know people spend money on what they value. And we just talked about groceries being easily $250 per trip, but 178 is no small thing. And she looked at me and she said, no, it's not. And then she explained to me why she wanted it. So be service minded and the business will come. And you can balance that with your own effort and productivity and who you think you are and your own personal financial goals. So I don't know. How we doing, Kyle?
Dude, this is fire. Holy smokes. You said a couple of things I've never heard of, which I was just so impressed. You literally bought an Aflac and a Colonial policy to get the
Oh, yeah.
documents so you could self-educate yourself and be an absolute student of the game. I've never heard that. Like, that is next elite status level right there, Whitfield. Hey, real quick, just a couple last just nitty gritty questions I wanted to ask because you've been dominating since day one. Would you mind just sharing like what your routine looks like an average day for you, Whitfield? You can let's go back to when you first started this career, and then maybe what it looks like nowadays as you're growing your agency. But when you first started this business, what did like a day in the life look like? Had two very young kids. I think you only had possibly one child at the time, but what did that look like? And then what does a kind of day in the life look like for you now?
Yeah, great question. So I think that your day does change. You can call it that the job gets easier or the job never gets easier, you just get better, whatever you want to call it. The way the job gets easier or the way that you get better is just sheer effort and commitment. The more all in you are, the easier this is. The more kind of half in you are, this job just gets so difficult. I mean, I've been on every end of it. I've driven out to an enrollment that I already had set up as I'm in the middle of breaking records, and I turned around and went home just from sheer anxiety over what I was doing. Now, I could go into great detail about what happened there. It was, again, all up here, right? I stopped focusing on my prospects. I stopped having a servant's attitude, and I started thinking, boy, I'm really only this amount away from breaking the first quarter record at the company. And if I line up that enrollment and this enrollment and that enrollment, and I sneak in a couple Saturdays, I could crack 200, right? So once I switched into thinking like that, the job became completely miserable and undoable. So A, don't do that, right? Keep your heart on service. But B, in terms of the early days, my lifeline was my stats. My schedule, I didn't have past about 3 o'clock. You can do amazing things if you go out there and you work from 8 a.m., sometimes 7 a.m. If you schedule, I scheduled some things early on in my career at 6 a.m. with a guy that just said, that's the spot I've got. So I said, I'll see you at 6. I left the house at 5. Sun's still coming up, and I'm knocking on his door at his garage saying, hey, I'm ready to show you what we do. But I got a lot of productive work in until 3 o'clock that first, probably 6 months of my career. So my version of a 2 out of 3 day was hit every day, even though I had to stop at 3. That's the focus at the beginning, is simply activity, get better, improve your attitude. But for me, the stats were critical, because if I had a 0 out and I had given it my best that day, that always stinks. I don't care who you are. I don't care how far along in your career. It's never fun to go out and work all day and not have anything technically in terms of production yet to show for it. So what did I do on those days? I just went to my stats. And my stats just showed me that if I just keep going out to work, that this is what I'm working. I knew my stats inside and out. So I could tell you back then, every time I go say hello to somebody, it's worth $97.54 to me. Every time I sit down with somebody, right, it's worth this amount of money. My average gap production, right, came to somewhere like, I don't know, 2,760 or whatever. And in terms of my take home, it's like, oh, well, cool. I'm making more than $1,000 a day. This feels good. This is nice. I can do this. So it's pretty encouraging to yourself when you might be having a tough week or day to look at your stats and to know what you really are worth currently and where you're headed. So early on, that's what it looks like. Today I don't pay as much attention to my stats because I've earned the freedom not to look at them every day. I have the discipline now to go out and work every day no matter what and give it my best and come home and the day was the day, put my head on my pillow, wake up in the morning and get up and go do it again. Now, if that ever starts to slip, I'll start focusing again on my 2 out of 3s. I'll start going back to my stats, right? I'll need to adjust. Right now, I'm kind of on autopilot. So because I've earned the right with my daily discipline to not have to dig into that stuff as much, I don't do it. Right now, what I do is I just always work backwards from 50. My goal every month is 50,000 because it's the biggest jump in bonus. So for me, it's the most efficient number to hit. The difference between 30 and 40 is a $500 bonus difference, but the difference between 40 and 50 is a $1,000 difference. You get $3,000 for hitting 50, and every once in a while they throw you those doubles. So I take 3,000 times 12, 36 grand, throw a double in or two, get 40 grand. Talk about your 2K per quarter bonus. I'm making $50,000 a year just in bonuses. So that's my target. So I just work backwards. Right now, I was on vacation for 7 days, just me and my son. We were down in Mexico. So I had a gap in production there. So this month I'm sitting on about 12. So in my head, I have 38,000 to write while being in Arlington before the end of the month. And that gets me my 50K, and that's my monthly goal. So those things can change, but you're never not having goals. You're never not paying attention to your stats. It's always about the effort and the attitude. Now, early on, don't think about production at all. You'd be a fool to think about production. Think about stats and stats only, because if you have the activity, then it is inevitable that everything else will follow.
Holy smokes. This is straight fire. All right, guys, we got about 5 minutes left with Mr. Whitfield. Any last questions or comments, or maybe some takeaways that you have so far for Mr. Whitfield? This is some great stuff. I've got over 2 pages of notes myself.
Thank you so much for being on with us. So I just want to tell you how much I appreciate the whole Aflac Colonial, like getting policies and then canceling them so you know what to do when people have that objection. So that is huge. I really appreciate that. And thank you for being on with us today.
Absolutely. One thing I'll note about that is that, the company has it all figured out. I tried to reinvent the wheel a couple times early on. So everything you hear from MDs and AOs and from the top down and everything in the book, whatever you want to call it, but the company knows what it's doing. So the approach generally when somebody has something else is, that's great. I'm glad you have something for cancer, right? What made you get that? What do you like about it? Maybe what do you not like about it, right? So that's always the core. But I do that part. And then I say, well, I mean, if what you're telling me about the cancer and the family and what you saw happen to your sister, how many days was she in the hospital? She's in the hospital 33 days. Oh my goodness, 33 days. Well, you know what, John, this is why it's so important, at least in my view, to know what you have. Because the policy here that you're describing is going to pay you $250 for the first 30 days, and then they're going to bump it to $500 for those next 2 days. Our policy is going to pay you $800 for all 32. I'm no math genius, right? But that's a big difference. Now, I don't care what you do today. Like, you're going to do what you think is best. But let me show you what our policy would do. Like, oh, well, what is the difference in that? Well, I don't know. 800 times 30 is like a 20, what am I, about $25,000, $26,000 versus what did we get? We got about 15? No, not even. Oh, right. No, gosh, not even 15 because it's 250. So 250. Ooh, yikes. Right. That's a big difference. And, I don't know how that policy that you're holding, how long you've had it or whatever. But one of the things our clients love is hopefully you never actually get cancer. You know, we're not as profitable as Aflac. We do things a little differently. But let me tell you about our return to premium, because I'd hate for you to get cancer and have to use this. I'd love for you not to. But we're not going to run off with all that money. In fact, based on what you're telling me and what we're looking at here, you can either throw $17,000 away, or looks like you could just tuck away 26. You know, ours is a little more expensive because we do pay so much more, but you're never throwing it away. It's one of the things that our clients love best about us, right?
Hey, Whit, I got a question. Well, first off, just want to say thanks for being on with us. Even though you're ruining Aflac agents A to T at this point. No, I'm just kidding. Man, talk to us about, like, you know, a brick wall that you face in this career. Just kind of curious with, you know, it seems like every agent I talk to has faced a brick wall. You know, we got new agents on the call. It will happen to most of us, if not all of us. So just talk to us about that real quick, if you would.
Yeah, your brick wall, I guarantee you, I don't even have to know your brick wall. Your brick wall's mental. Now, maybe every once in a while, that's why I wouldn't really call it a brick wall. Maybe a family member's in the ICU and you just need to go take care of that family member. I don't call that a brick wall. I call that a circumstance, right? A brick wall is you. So if you're facing a brick wall, then it's between your ears. And you need to dig in and find out why you're giving yourself a brick wall. So I gave myself a brick wall, and the reason I had to figure it out was because it was so confusing. I was flying, you know, I was just doing my job every day. I didn't have any idea what I was doing was apparently good or impressive. My brother said, "Hey, you know, you broke that record, or you did this, or, you know, you're doing really good." And I'm like, I don't know that I'm just doing what you told me to do. Right? I'm just going out there every day and getting a 2 out of 3 day and trying to be conversational. I didn't know that that was apparently a big deal. But when I started shifting that focus to production and I started looking at old records in the record books, everything changed for me. Nose stung, because now it was like, oh God, well, am I going to get that or not now, that record? I don't know what that big no. Not just no's, but cancellations stung. Oh God, I wrote that policy. It was $389.40 in premium. I was banking on that and they just pulled it. Shoot, I got to go find another 2 or 3 policies to make up for that if I want to hit this record. That is toxic and terrible. It's the exact opposite of where your mind should be in this business. And so my brick wall was around shifting my focus to performance. And yeah, it was, if you go look at my, you know, if you pull up my net, you'll find these 2 big gaps of like 4, 5, and 6 weeks of no production, 0. Because I just got way too in my head, way too competitive with myself. The job became super unfun. And I needed to just time out myself and say, what is going on that this job is getting so difficult when it used to be so easy? So those were, you know, a while back. I don't have them now because I've learned to just check in with myself and say, how are we doing today? Are we still having fun? You know, are we still just showing up with a servant's attitude? So brick walls, invariably. In fact, you know, if anybody ever they think a brick wall that's got nothing to do with your mental state, I'd love to hear it. We can talk about it, because I think that 99% of the time it's going to be a mental problem.
Holy smokes. Awesome stuff, Whitfield. Hey, all right, guys, we're going to wrap up today's call. It is 8:30. It is 7:30 Whitfield's time. He's already in the field. He left his house an hour ago to get to his territory before this call so he can go hit it hard today, hit his goals before the mid-year meeting. So thanks, Whitfield, for being on. This was an amazing call. So
Absolutely. My pleasure.
This call is recorded. It's going to be put on our YouTube channel. So if you want to rewatch, I mean, he was spitting so many nuggets of fire. If you want to rewatch and relearn some things, feel free to get on our YouTube channel later on in the week and level your stuff off. This is some awesome content. A couple takeaways I had. I love the saying he said, if you know you were worth more, you will find out pretty quickly here. That right there was an absolute home run. Also, just a couple things he has. He has his kid's pacifier. He keeps one in his pocket. So if he ever feels unmotivated, he squeezes it. And he's like, this is not for me. It's for my son, right? It's not about me. It's for my kids. right? And just making sure that he always has his goals in front of it, but he always leads with his heart. Okay. If all you're focusing on is yourself, me, myself, or I, this career, this job is a job and it's not very fun. But when you put the service on helping families and doing the right thing and it's all about them, this career, that's when it really takes off. And that's when you can have fun with people. Okay. Who you think you are, what you think you have. If you feel like you're a peddler when you're walking into a business, it's going to be not fun at all. It's going to be very challenging. But if you know that you're an angel on the doorstep, you know you're the biggest servant this person's ever seen, you know that you're offering an impeccable product that does exactly what it says it's going to do, this career is significantly easier. You're exactly where you're supposed to be. Okay. And just having just the student of the game mentality, like just making sure like he knows exactly what his competitors are. He knows exactly how much they pay per day on the specific policies. And then he just does the math, right? And he's just student of the game, just setting goals, reverse engineering those goals, knowing that if I want to hit this goal, I got to up my contacts from 19 a day to 26 a day. Am I willing to commit to that? And if it's a strong enough why for you to do it, you're going to make sure you do everything in your power to make sure that happens. So thanks, Phil, for being on, man. This was an incredible call. Super excited. It is Wisdom Wednesday. We will see you guys tomorrow morning on the WIG calls. Let's go out there, do your dead level best, and let God do the rest. Let's go have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Awesome.